Here's the last thing I'll say, because I don't want this to come across wrong. And Melissa really gave me this in a clear way. Because we're talking about not hurting each other and protecting each other and all that type of stuff. So we're having this really serious conversation one day. And I'm like, okay, bet. You want to be honest? I'll be honest. And she was like, if you think you finna be honest without being kind, it's going to be wrong. Because honesty without kindness is harsh.
It's mean.
It's mean, right? And kindness without honesty is just lies, right? It's just soft lies. So she was like, you tell me the truth, but you find a nice way to tell it to me because I deserve that. And that's what I've given you. A lot of times in relationship, people, I just tell it like it is. I'm sorry. I'm just blunt. I'm just this and that. Okay. So what you're telling me is you just hurt a person on purpose and you don't love them enough to find a nice way to communicate what you want.
Amen.
You just want to get it out and just be who you are and be blunt. And what often happens is you can't honestly take that from other people. But when you want to give it, you just go, and that's just how I am. If you don't like it, fine. Is that really how you want to show up in your relationship?
Come on and say the
words. You don't want to take the time to say, okay, if Melissa, here's how I feel, and here's X, here's Y. You don't want to take the time to think about what's a nice way to say this so it can be digested.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Your partner deserves
say it, Kev.
Your time in trying to convey what you have to say in a kind way. They deserve that time from you to take the time. They deserve that prep work. The same way I had employees before at work. I knew if they were messing up, I can't just be like, you suck at your job. And if you don't do good, you're going to get fired. That's not effective leadership. Effective leadership is here's what you do well. Here's where you're missing. Let's create a plan. And also, me specifically, for years, she's done it for me. She ain't never just came. If she would have came to me when I got fired and was like, I told you sucked at that job and you was making them comedy show flyers, you was going to get fired. She knew that was coming. That's not what I needed at that time. Yeah, Yvette, I was making, because the color copies was 50 cents at Kinko's. I risked it all, and like an idiot, I left the original in the glass. My boss came and showed me the flyer. I thought it was excited to go to my show. He was upset because the ink was low. All of a sudden, we got all these blue papers, and I ain't never used the copy machine before or since.
Shout out to Kev on stage. I love him. But listen, everything he said was like perfection. It all boils down to choosing your words. You can be honest, you can be clear, you can be concise, but you can also be kind. Like, and for kicks and giggles, if your breath stank, I'm not just gonna roll up to you and be like, my dude, your breath is funky, it's harsh, I can't get out my face, back up. Something as trivial as that. I'm like, babe, what did you eat for lunch today? Your breath kind of might need to go. You see, it's much softer than your breath stink. And that is very, very trivial. But like, if I'm coming to you, let's say I'm coming to you with something serious, babe, you're not satisfying me. That is very different from you suck in bed. This is horrible. I don't want to do this no more. No, you trash. This is trash. No, like, it's all about your delivery. And I think as adults, we all know this. These are conversations that we have on a regular basis. It's not necessarily what you say. It's how you say it.
Yeah, I can agree. I think the problem is, well, with this conversation, people tend to, men, we tend to be very, very blunt when we're delivering whatever we want to deliver, our grievances, our issues to our partners. And we like to, just look at it and just be like, okay, well, I'm a man, you're a woman, you're emotional, and you like to speak softly, but a man likes to speak directly. But even in speaking directly, you still have to use your logic. Use your logic, like everybody likes to say that men have this logic. If you're logically thinking, and your partner is an emotional being, they don't take critique very well, then take some time to think about how to structure your sentences, how to structure your tone when you're delivering whatever you want to deliver to that partner to get your point across. Um, I don't think, well, you could have an issue with vocabulary. I don't know if that's everyone's issue, but the thing is this: just being able to deliver it in a not necessarily soft way, but as Kevin said, kind. You can be you can give your partner the kindness that you would want your partner to give you. It's not always about being a blunt object, jabbing right into the eardrums of your partner. Especially if you want a positive outcome. If you want the outcome to be negative, then definitely by all means give it to her in a blunt type of way. Give it to him in a blunt type of way. You're probably not going to get too far with that. I myself am a blunt character, right? But for me, and you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, for me, it takes me a while sometimes to get what I want to say out because my mind is trying to structure the best way to say something so that I don't just outright hurt her feelings, right? I don't I mean, am I wrong?
No, you're right.
Okay. I try to approach these things with care. And as Kevin said, if you're in a partnership or in a relationship with a significant other that you love and you want to spend a great deal of time with, then you should feel like you owe that person that amount of care when you're speaking to them about whatever the issue is. And I will hope they would want to return that to you. Now, I will say, though, that sometimes, no matter how you say something, it's not going to be received well. It's just not. It's not. They may not blow up, but you may get some tears out of the situation. And it might not be one of those scenarios where you're being manipulated. It might be some real tears. And sometimes there's nothing you can do about that. But now if it's every single time you try to deliver, some type of grievance, even with a kind heart, and they can never take anything well, then I think that's a red flag. Am I wrong? You think that's a red flag?
Probably. I think it kind of depends
On
what these grievances are, because she or he really could be, extra sensitive or emote. Like these things, they're big things, and so it does, cause some type of emotional response. I want to backtrack though.
Oh, okay.
Because you said something about if you know that your significant other doesn't handle grievances well or something along those lines, which implied that if they handle criticism well, that you can be blunt. I just want to say that care with your words should span all relationships, not just even romantic relationships. That should span all relationships. You should choose your words carefully. There are some instances where blunt and direct and to the point. Even with that, though, you can still be kind. Even when you need to be blunt and direct and straight to the point, there can still be kindness in there. So I don't know that there is necessarily a situation where kindness.
But that would lean more on the line of tone, though. In those situations, I think you can be blunt, but watch your tone. I think that's where the wires start to get crossed. Like if you're talking to me straight to the point and your tone is messed up,
it goes back to it's not what you say but how you say it.
Right. But see, even with that though, sometimes though you still got to be able to hear the message and what's being given to you though.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But if you just overarching with it and your delivery is horrible, you being blunt, and this is a very sensitive issue, might be a problem. it might end up being a problem. You might not end up getting the results that you think that you should receive in a situation like that. It's a very fine line. As Kevin said, give your partner that kindness, but
because you would want them to give it to you. You don't
Right.
want them to come at you with words razor sharp.
right,
There are gentler ways to do pretty much everything. Just
Right.
think about what you need to say and what you need to address before you go. And maybe if you're in a heightened state, let's say you are arguing. I saw this the other day. This was a really good idea. They said that when they get into a disagreement or an argument and things just really get out of hand, they call a timeout and they lay down on the floor and face each other face to face. And they was like, you can't argue when you laying on the floor looking at each other face to
Who
face.
can't?
I was like, you know what? You kind of can't. That would feel stupid. Whatever it takes for you to take a time out and maybe get these emotions back in order before you say something in a way that you don't mean. So I think a lot of times when things come out in arguments, it's not necessarily that you didn't mean it, because you meant it.
Yeah.
9.5 times out of 10, you meant what you said. Those were things that were just kind of buried and you maybe didn't know how to deliver them. And in the height of emotion, you spit it out.
right.
So I don't think that you didn't mean to say it. I think you didn't mean to say it that way. And you didn't take a minute to think about it and gather kinder words to say it.
But even with that, though, I think people probably meant to say it that way, but they just didn't do what you just said. They didn't take the time to think about kinder words, because at that point, I'm mad, you mad, we both saying a bunch of stuff. I want to say whatever I want to say.
Yes. And
And
subconsciously or consciously, I want to hurt you
and get this over with,
or anger you.
And win this argument that we got going on. See, it's a competition. And listen, the competition in those type of scenarios, that doesn't help anybody. You may think it's going to help you because you've won, but
Right.
did you really win? Because now you still got this angry person that you got to look at, because you're not about to leave. Some of y'all might leave.
Someone might.
Some of y'all might
Might
leave.
be the end.
But right, it depends though. I'm saying, but if this is a situation to where this is second or third argument that you guys have had, it could be the end for some people. But if you are really about sticking that thing out, this probably ain't gonna be the end. But you just said some things to win the argument. What are you gonna do now?
Yeah.
You gonna leave the house? Y'all gonna be looking at each other, and you're gonna always remember what the other person said, because unless you go back and actually address it, which would need to happen in order for there to be some type of calm waters going on. But then again, all of this stuff goes back to effective communication, because to effectively communicate, you really have to think about what you're going to say before you say it. You got to think about feelings, and that's that whole emotional intelligence coming into play. You got to think about the other person's feelings. You got to think about your feelings, because you don't want to slight yourself in that, but you also don't want to trample all over the other person. If you're acting in a way or trying to carry out this type of conversation or argument in an emotionally intelligent and in a way that is very considerate of your other partner, your partner.
I think what works for us is we simply purpose not to argue. We've had one argument?
Two.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember one, but okay. 2 arguments in our entire 13 years of marriage, 16 years. Okay, so 2 if we count relationship time that I can remember. 2 arguments in 16 years of being in a romantic relationship, because we choose to sit down and have conversations instead of arguing. Like, let me hear your side and then you hear my side. And just like we talk now, this is how we have disagreements. You voice your grievance and then I voice my grievance, and then we try to come to a solution. And sometimes we agree to disagree, and sometimes you're wrong, and it's not often. It's not often, y'all. I don't, usually in society, the woman is always right. That's not how this works in my marriage.
We're not in society. That's why.
I am. He come with a lot of logic, and if he making sense, I don't like it. But we purpose not to argue. I'm not about to yell with you. He's not about to yell with me. We're gonna sit down and we will have a conversation and discuss whatever it is that's going on, and we'll go from there.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that not everyone is like us. I understand that a lot of people have full-fledged arguments and there is yelling and there is screaming. And I think in those moments, you have to just take a pause, let's time out so that I, as myself, can gather my emotions and you gather your emotions. And then let's come back when we've calmed down some and have a further discussion.
100%. Because I'm not an arguer. I mean, I can, but again,
You're
I'm
a
not,
debater.
right. I'm not the type of person that's going to sit up here. And a lot of men aren't. Though a lot of men will leave the situation when there's an argument. You know, I kind of think that when there is a lot of yelling and stuff going on, a lot of times it's coming from the woman's side. There are a bunch of men out there that will yell with you, but once you've matured to a certain space and, you know, really figured out who you are and how you more than likely should be carrying yourself, you're going to exit the situation before it starts getting to that point. And when I say exit, I'm not saying just completely leave. You got to know how to bring things back down to a steady level, because nobody can be heard if both of y'all are yelling.
You won't solve anything.
You're hollering about she's emotional, but you just as emotional as her. And two emotional beings clashing in the midst of an argument, you can't really, you can't solve anything like that.
Feelings are going to get hurt. Anger is going to get more inflamed, and it's not going to lead. And like you said, it's going to lead down the road to further problems, because remember 2 months ago when you said this about my mama,
somebody going to bring it up in an argument that has nothing to do with that.
Right. And that's the other thing why people you bring up old stuff in new arguments, because you were in the height of an emotion when whatever was said, you never resolved it. And so now when you're back in that heightened state, you're going back to that same issue. So now you have the new issue and you still have the old unresolved issue.
Mm-hmm.
So
that is 100%.
Take a breather, take a time out, lay down on the floor and look at each other in the face, and then try it again. Yeah,
I'm with it. You got any closing remarks? I mean, you just gave a whole handful.
I think we covered everything.
Me too. All right, so it's been great talking to y'all.
As always.
Peace.
Good night.